My name is Jessica, and I am a programmer working in the field of cybersecurity. Since losing my parents in the pandemic, I have been living alone with their mementos and this precious painting. It is an old one from my great-grandmother's era, and it has the signature of a famous British painter. I have no intention of selling it, and it fits perfectly in my living room. Work is only a part of my life, and my workplace is just a few steps away from my apartment. Outside of work, I either immerse myself in studying at my apartment or create content for my YouTube channel. Shy and clumsy Jessica transforms into Zoe, a YouTuber who uploads videos about cybersecurity. My videos are not flashy, but they are reasonably popular. I don't have many friends, but I am particularly close with an old classmate, Emma, and her lawyer husband, Liam. We talk about various topics while eating pizza and pasta at restaurants in the city. They are wonderful friends who listen to my professional stories without getting tired of them. One day, while checking the comments on my YouTube channel, I received a message from someone named Michael. It wasn't the typical "the great video" comment, but an intellectual question about a vulnerability in security software. We started exchanging messages, and I found out he was truly knowledgeable about the internet. Hi, I'm Michael. I watched your latest video. Can you give me some advice on setting up a secure home network? Do you have time? He said. I replied, of course, go ahead. But promise me you won't try to hijack your neighbor's Wi-Fi. We hit it off quickly. Talking to Michael felt like talking to a friend, which was a big step for me, as most men can't get past my self-defense walls. You understand, right? After exchanging messages for a week, he said, I have something I'd like to discuss in person. Can we meet? Maybe over coffee. I replied, coffee sounds great. There's a good place near my workplace. How about Friday? Friday works for me. Let's meet there. For Zoe, meeting Michael was a big step. Usually, I'd be glued to my computer on Fridays, updating software, but here I was, planning to meet someone I met online. There was something about him. On the promised day, I arrived early at the cafe and checked updates on my phone to calm my nerves. Michael walked in, looking completely at ease, and gave me a smile that unsettled me just a little. Hello, Jessica. I'm Michael. Thank you for coming. I stood up and shook his hand. Hello, Michael. I hope this place is friendly to conversations between tech geeks. We delved into a discussion about technology, but it wasn't just that. Michael's stories were interesting, witty, and not overly dramatic. He turned technical conversations into something fun, more like a lively gathering than a mere Q&A session. At the end, Michael said, I had a wonderful time. I'd like to see you again. Could we make this a regular thing? I nodded and replied, I think so too. Maybe next time, I could help save theoretical threats and your phone. On my way back to my apartment, I found myself smiling. Spending time with someone like this once in a while isn't so bad, just a little. Even cybersecurity professionals need to step away from their computer screens occasionally. One sunny Saturday, Michael suggested I meet his mother. He had been bringing it up for a while. It seemed very important to him. It's just lunch, Zoe. But my mom is a bit old-fashioned. She likes to know about my relationships. I agreed. I wasn't exactly eager to meet his mother, but if our relationship was becoming serious, it seemed like the right thing to do. We drove to a quiet suburban area with orderly houses and well-maintained gardens. Michael's family home was as neat and clean as he was. His mother was waiting for us at the door. She smiled, but her eyes scanned me like a security system from head to toe. Michael, it's been a while. And you must be Jessica. I've heard a lot about you from Michael, she said, giving me a hug that felt more like an inspection. Nice to meet you, Mrs. Davis, I managed to say as I stepped inside a house filled with the aroma of roasted chicken and something sweet. The lunch table was set so perfectly it looked like it belonged in a magazine photo shoot. We sat down, and the interrogation began. Linda served the roasted chicken and asked her first question. So, Jessica, Michael tells me you work in computers. I work in cybersecurity, I replied, poking at my potatoes. Well, that's wonderful, she said with a hint of sarcasm. Does it pay well? I choked slightly on my water. Michael interrupted, Mom, stop it. That's not something you ask. Linda ignored him. Oh, it's just small talk. So, Jessica, I hear you own your own place. That's impressive, being independent. I nodded, unsure how much to reveal. Yes, I have my own apartment. You bought it all by yourself? Without anyone's help? Her tone was filled with curiosity as if she were trying to unearth something from my past. Yes, by myself, I replied, feeling slightly cornered. Under the table, Michael lightly kicked my foot, giving me a look that said, just hang in there. The meal dragged on, and Linda's questions spanned everything from my family background to my long-term career plans. I tried to steer the conversation away from the interrogation tone, but Linda had a knack for bringing it back on track. Finally, dessert was served, and I saw it as an opportunity to shift the flow. Mrs. Davis, Michael speaks very highly of you. Raising such a gentleman, you must be an incredible mother. Linda softened slightly. Well, I did my best. He's always been a good boy, not much of a troublemaker. Isn't that right, Michael? Michael smiled and said, Not once, Mom. But Jessica is amazing too. She's very smart and knows exactly what she's doing. You should check out her YouTube channel. She has a lot of followers. A YouTuber as well? Linda raised her eyebrows. Yes, I am, I replied, trying my best to maintain a polite smile despite my growing irritation. Linda's curiosity about money was exhausting. A year passed more quickly than I could have imagined, and there I was, Michael's wife, trying to adapt to a new life. Michael and I had a simple wedding, inviting only close friends and family, and we settled into my apartment shortly afterward. Married life was supposed to be sweet, wasn't it? Well, it would have been if his mother, Linda, hadn't shown an excessive interest in our lives, particularly in our finances. At first, it started with harmless visits. Linda came by, claiming she wanted to see how we were settling in, but soon, these visits turned into full-blown inspections. Her eyes would scan new items like the blender or TV, and she'd casually mention their online prices. Are you really getting your money's worth with that blender? She'd ask, looking up the exact price on her phone. But it wasn't just the comments. Her visits became more frequent, and she started spending entire days at our home. At first, she'd just have coffee and leave, but as her visits grew more frequent, I found myself with almost no free time in my own space. One day, I tried to hint at the problem gently. Linda, don't you think having some time alone at home is wonderful? I read an article saying solitude can be really refreshing. She only laughed and didn't take my words seriously. Oh, I get plenty of alone time at home. That's why I came here, to change the environment and be with someone. Frustrated, I began making excuses or visiting Emma's house whenever I knew Linda was coming over. But Linda persisted, following me closely whenever she had the chance. Jessica, why don't we grab lunch at that new cafe in town? My treat, she suggested one afternoon, just as I was about to leave. With reluctance, I agreed, hoping that a public setting would alter the tone of our dialogues. We found a table at the cafe, and Linda generously ordered appetizers, a main course, and dessert. After the meal, she rummaged through her bag and gave me a slightly surprised look. Oh my, it seems I forgot my wallet at home. What a bother. Feeling a pang of irritation in my stomach, I pulled out my wallet, keeping a calm demeanor as I paid to avoid escalating the situation. But my frustration was growing. Back at the apartment, I could no longer hold it in. Linda, I think we need to set some boundaries. This is my home, and you can't just treat it as your own and do whatever you like. She looked surprised, her face shifting to one of hurt. I just wanted to spend time with you and Michael, Jessica. I didn't know my presence was such a nuisance. Before I could respond, Michael walked in and caught the tail end of our conversation. Jessica, what's going on? Why would you say that to my mom? I turned to him, the frustration from the day spilling out. Michael, we need to talk about boundaries. Your mother is just. But he cut me off, his voice calm but tinged with anger. Mom is only trying to help, Jessica. You're overreacting. Can't you be a little more accommodating? Linda left shortly after. The air in the apartment was heavy and tense. After this unpleasant exchange, Linda kept her distance from our apartment for a few weeks. I began to relax and enjoy the peace. One day, while cleaning, I noticed something unusual about the painting I had inherited from my parents. The painting, which I cherished for its history and sentimental value, was crooked on the wall. I always took care to keep it perfectly aligned, so it struck me as odd. Frowning, I straightened the painting and, feeling a sense of unease, decided to ask Michael about it. Hey, did you move the painting? I asked casually during dinner. Without lifting his eyes from his plate, Michael replied, Oh, yeah, Mom had it appraised. She was curious about its value. I froze with my fork in midair. She did? Why didn't you ask me first? Michael shrugged, still avoiding eye contact. Mom was just curious. You always blow these things out of proportion. Determined to confront Linda directly, I picked up my phone and dialed her number. She answered on the first ring, almost as if she had been waiting for my call. Jessica, good news about that painting. It's worth $500,000. You should sell it. Her words left my mind spinning. Linda, that painting is not yours. You had no right to take it for appraisal. Linda's tone turned icy. You're being unreasonable, Jessica, she said before hanging up. The next day, feeling the need to clear my head, I left work early. As I unlocked the door, I heard voices inside. It was Michael and Linda. When I entered the room, they stopped talking abruptly. Linda glanced at Michael, then at me, and left without saying a word. What was that about? I asked, hanging up my coat. Nothing, he muttered, but his voice betrayed his unease. Feeling uncomfortable, I went straight to my room. There, I immediately noticed that things were out of place. My computer had been moved, and my documents were scattered. My heart began to race. Something was definitely going on. That night, after Michael had fallen asleep, I ordered a hidden camera with an audio recording feature online. Of course, I didn't tell Michael. The next day, I set it up in my room. I also moved the painting from the living room to my room, hoping it would be safe under the camera's watch. With the camera in place, I buried myself in a new work project to distract myself. The thought of Linda and Michael conspiring unsettled me, but I needed to focus on something productive. Work always had a calming effect on me. Feeling unwell one day, I again left work early. When I got home, I found Linda and Michael casually relaxing in the living room as if it were nothing unusual. The sight gave me an uneasy feeling. Michael, why aren't you at work? Without hesitation, he looked up and shrugged. I quit. You make enough for both of us. Linda nodded in agreement, her smile tight and unnerving. That's right, Jessica. You earn so much, why should Michael have to deal with a stressful job? I was speechless at the absurdity of what I was hearing. This wasn't just a casual visit, it was their true intentions laid bare. Are you kidding me? You quit your job without consulting me? And Linda, what's your role in all of this? Michael stood up, surprisingly calm. Zoe, don't overreact. You have money. I need your help right now. His words felt like a dagger, leaving me dizzy. Help? You mean you want me to support you financially because you don't want to work? Have you two been plotting how to squeeze every bit out of me? Linda narrowed her eyes and crossed her arms. Watch your tone, Jessica. We're family. That was the final straw. Family? This is not what family does. Let's get a divorce. The smile that appeared on Michael's face was one I had never seen before, cold and almost satisfied. That's good news for me. If we divorce, I'll demand alimony. After all, I'm unemployed now. His audacity left me speechless, a mix of anger and disbelief surging through me. Without another word, he grabbed a travel bag that had clearly been prepared behind the sofa and walked out the door. Linda shot me a glare cold enough to curdle milk and said, "See you in court, Jessica," before following him out. After they left, the apartment fell silent. It felt as though I had woken up from a nightmare, only to realize the monsters were real and that I had invited them into my life. I called Emma, my voice trembling as I recounted what had just happened. She was furious on my behalf. Jessica. You need protection, legal protection. Liam will help, I'm sure of it. I went to Emma and Liam's house. Liam, already in full lawyer mode, was ready to assist and sympathized with my situation. Jessica, I'll handle this. First, we'll file for divorce. Don't worry about his alimony threats. We'll counter every move they make. It's obvious Michael quitting his job now was calculated, and we can prove it. After our discussion, I returned to my apartment, more resolute than ever. Facing a divorce from a husband I thought I understood and confronting his and his mother's greed was painful, but I couldn't back down. I wouldn't let them destroy everything I had built. The morning of the first court date felt like preparing for battle. Dressed sharply, I tried to exude confidence despite the turmoil within. My stomach churned as I walked to the courthouse with Liam, my lawyer and friend. I braced myself for a difficult day, but what unfolded was beyond anyone's expectations. When Michael entered the courtroom, he was almost unrecognizable. His suit was slightly baggy, his hair unkempt, and his eyes downcast, as though he hadn't slept for days. He embodied misery and misfortune perfectly. His mother, Linda, clung to his arm, her expression one of worried support, a flawless performance. As the proceedings began, Michael's lawyer spared no effort in painting him as a victim. Your Honor, members of the jury, my client was abandoned by his wife, the sole breadwinner, at the moment he needed her most. Mr. Davis not only lost his job but was left to face financial ruin alone. Michael took the stand, his voice trembling. I always handled all the housework, Your Honor. Cooking, cleaning, I did everything to ease Jessica's burdens and support her in every way. When I lost my job, she abandoned me. Linda followed with testimony that could have earned her an Oscar. Life with Jessica was a nightmare for my son. She controlled everything, including their finances. When he lost his job, instead of helping, she left him. Jessica is not the person she appears to be. The hypocrisy was astonishing. As I listened to their distorted accounts of our life together, a cold anger built inside me. Finally, it was Liam's turn for cross-examination, and he did his best to dismantle their narrative. "Mr. Davis, didn't you voluntarily quit your job without consulting my client?" Michael hesitated under Liam's sharp gaze, stammering, "Well, initially, yes, but it was ultimately a mutual decision." Despite Liam's efforts, the judge seemed swayed by Michael's emotional performance. The sympathy in the judge's eyes as he listened to Michael made me uneasy. As we left the courtroom, Linda couldn't resist delivering a final blow. Smirking triumphantly, she approached me. "You may think you can win, Jessica. But just watch. You'll lose, and when you do, I'll squeeze every last cent out of you." At home, the silence was suffocating, and the weight of the possibility of losing in court bore down on me. I needed support, a plan of action, and maybe a slice or two of pizza. I picked up the phone and dialed Emma. "Hey, can you and Liam come over tonight? I think it's time to strategize for real." Over pizza. They arrived with steaming pizza boxes and a determination in their eyes that mirrored my own. We gathered in the living room, where the coffee table became an impromptu war room, covered in notebooks, pens, and dinner. "We need a breakthrough, something concrete to turn the situation around," Liam said, handing me a slice of pepperoni pizza. I nodded, trying to organize my thoughts as I took a bite. "Right. But so far, everything is circumstantial, and they're playing the victim card flawlessly," Emma said, pouring coffee and frowning in thought. "We need evidence they can't deny." As we continued brainstorming strategies and legal angles over dinner, no clear solution emerged. Then, as we cleared the plates and Emma poured herself a second cup of coffee, a casual remark changed everything. "Jessica, doesn't that painting look different to you?" Emma asked, pointing to the large canvas in the living room. I turned to look, and my heart skipped a beat. The colors seemed more vibrant, more alive than I remembered. Suddenly, I remembered something I had completely forgotten and jumped up. That's it. I installed a camera in my room. I totally forgot. We rushed to my room, powered up the computer, and began reviewing the hidden camera footage. The files loaded, and we carefully observed the days sped up in fast forward. There it was, as footage from the day Michael and Linda were alone in my apartment. The video showed them entering my room, glancing around nervously, and then approaching the painting. Though their voices were low, the camera captured them clearly. "If we swap it out and sell the original, she'll never notice," Linda said. "So, we'll get $500,000 from it?" Michael whispered, his voice dripping with greed. Linda's laugh sent chills down my spine. "And once she divorces and moves out, we'll live like royalty. No more hiding, no more saving." My hand trembled as I paused the video. We exchanged looks, fully grasping the gravity of the situation. This wasn't just petty theft, it was calculated betrayal. "We've got them, Jessica. This footage will completely discredit them in court," Liam said confidently. Liam outlined the next steps, and Emma helped me draft a statement, crafting a clear and concise narrative of betrayal and deceit. The morning of the final court date was unlike any other. As we entered the courtroom, Michael and Linda wore smug expressions, completely unaware of what was about to happen. The room quieted as the judge called the session to order. Liam began to speak, his voice resonating through the courtroom. "Your Honor, I would like to submit crucial new evidence for this trial. May I have your permission?" The judge looked at him with interest. "What evidence is that?" "A recording from a hidden camera, Your Honor, which reveals the true intentions of Mr. Davis and his mother." Permission was granted with a nod, and as Liam connected the USB to the courtroom's AV system, the room fell silent. Watching Michael and Linda, I could see their confidence begin to waver as the screen lit up. The footage played, their voices filling the courtroom. Michael's deceitful words and Linda's greedy laughter echoed in the air, eliciting gasps and whispers of shock from the audience. As the video ended, the judge fixed a piercing glare on Michael and Linda, their faces pale and their eyes wide with fear. The gavel struck down, and the judge's voice boomed. Based on this undeniable evidence, I hereby dissolve the marriage of Jessica and Michael Davis. Mr. Davis's alimony claim is dismissed. But it didn't stop there. Turning to an assistant, the judge ordered, "Call the police. This is a case of theft and conspiracy to commit fraud." As officers entered the courtroom and approached Michael and Linda, the room buzzed with murmurs and sharp intakes of breath. Linda wept as she was handcuffed. "I'm sorry, Jessica. I had debts." "Save your excuses, Linda," I interrupted, turning away as the police escorted them out. A few days later, the painting was returned to me. Life gradually returned to normal. I threw myself into my work and my YouTube channel, helping people protect themselves from the kind of fraud I had experienced. 2 years later, one evening, my phone rang. It was Michael. His voice was hesitant. "Jessica. I'm out now. I'm living in a rental place. I was wondering if we could try again. I've really changed this time." I couldn't help but laugh. It was a bitter laugh, but it felt like a weight had lifted off me. "Michael, you haven't changed. You just ran out of options. Goodbye." As I hung up the phone, I felt the last piece of my past fade away. In that moment, something lightened in my chest. It was all finally over. I stood up and gazed at the painting my parents had left me, hanging in the living room. Its vibrant colors seemed to glow with a renewed life. What my parents had left me was not just this painting. They had also taught me strength and the importance of knowing my own worth. That night, I held a live stream on YouTube for the first time in a while. As Zoe, I decided not only to give my usual technical advice but also to share my personal experiences for the first time. "Everyone, I want to talk about something a little different today." On the screen, comments started flooding in. I was a victim of fraud. From the people I trusted most. But that wasn't the end. In fact, it was a new beginning. The number of viewers began to skyrocket. I took a deep breath and continued. Technology can protect us. But the most important thing is the power to believe in yourself. You don't need to rely on anyone else. You have the strength to protect your own life. Heart icons flooded the screen and empathetic comments poured in. One message from a woman caught my eye. "I went through something similar. But I didn't have the courage to fight back." I spoke directly to her. "You are valuable. And you are strong. Just as I was." After the stream, the response was overwhelming. Hundreds of messages came in from people who had gone through similar experiences. That night, I made a decision. The following week, when I met with Emma and Liam, I shared my new plan. I want to start a nonprofit organization to help people protect themselves from financial exploitation and fraud. Emma's eyes lit up. "That's an amazing idea." Liam nodded in agreement. "I'll handle the legal support. With your technical expertise and my legal knowledge, we can help so many people." During our conversation, laughter came from the next table in the cafe. When I turned around, a young man smiled at me. He had a laptop open, and programming code was displayed on the screen. "Excuse me, I couldn't help overhearing," he said sheepishly. I also work in cybersecurity, and I'm a fan of your channel. You're Zoe, right? Jessica, I replied with a smile. Strangely enough, his name was also Michael. Like us, he was passionate about using technology to protect people. We delved into technical discussions, and, before we knew it, the day was almost over. A few weeks later, my new office was ready. As I chose the wall to hang my parents' painting, I couldn't help but smile. This wasn't an end, it was the beginning of a new life. One day, during a walk, I saw Linda. She looked much older than before, handing out promotional flyers in front of a supermarket. When our eyes met, she froze. But I felt neither hatred nor anger, only quiet pity. I gave her a slight nod and walked past. The past should stay in the past. While editing my next video, I caught a glimpse of my reflection on the computer screen. My expression was more confident than ever before. A message arrived from Michael. I have a chance to demo a new security system this weekend. Could you come take a look? I replied with a smile. Of course, let me know how I can help. That night, as I stood by the window looking out at the city lights, a warm feeling rose within me. Life takes unexpected turns. But that isn't always a bad thing. The people who tried to change my fate ultimately made me stronger and wiser. And now, I could use those experiences to help protect others. Looking up at the painting my parents left me, I whispered in my heart. Watch over me. Your daughter is no longer a shy, lost girl. The next morning, before starting to film a new video, I smiled at the camera. Somewhere on the other side of the screen, someone like me was surely watching, looking for hope. Hello, this is Zoe. Today, I want to talk about protecting yourself. Because the main character of your life is you. This was the start of my new story. And as I began to speak, I hope to become a beacon of hope for someone out there. The red light on the camera blinked, opening the door to a new future.